everybody, this is Melissa from the Prize Foundation. I am super excited about our guests today. I can't wait to introduce them to you, but before we begin, I do want to give a shout out to our food prize sponsors who help make all of this possible. So a big thank you to The Cottage, to Coca-Cola, Eagle Distributing, Allen Energy, the Remington Hotel and Suites, the Polyak Group at Morgan Stanley, Elizabeth and Alex Kennedy, Karen and Cassidy Phillips, and Sandy and Jeffrey Kallenberg. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate all of you tuning in with us today. So today I'm thrilled to have with me Emery Whalen and Brian Landry. They are the co-owners of QED Hospitality and recently QED Resources. Welcome, guys. Nice to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
So there's so much to tell here, but tell us a little bit about QED Hospitality, what your group does.
So QED Hospitality is based out of New Orleans, but we have restaurants, bars, and coffee shops in both New Orleans and Nashville.
And, you know, with the start of everything, I mean, obviously New Orleans was a hot spot with the current COVID pandemic. And a lot of restaurants, a lot of restaurants have had to really pivot their business models. But I think it's safe to say you took that pivot one step further than just simple curbside. Tell us a little bit about QED Resources. What happened there?
When we were thinking about what we were going to do, when we saw the writing on the wall, we knew that we would have to make some drastic changes for our company. What we do at Jack Rose, Hot Tin, Bayou Bar, and Silver Whistle in New Orleans it's a very special experience, and it's really hard to recreate that outside of the restaurant. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense for us to try the to-go and the curbside model. And we really didn't think it was going to be the best thing for our employees. So we pivoted real hard, and we actually benefited from the fact my brother works for a medical technology consulting company called Divergent. Mm-hmm. And they were in the middle of scaling up a massive remote virtual call center for hospitals across the country that were looking to convert their in-office or in-hospital patient visits to telehealth visits. So what we were doing was converting our patients in-office visits to remote telehealth visits. And that meant training up a lot of our employees really quickly. We shut down the restaurants on a Monday and had them onboarded and training by that Thursday. And our goal was to really keep there from being any break in pay for them. So we wanted to move as quickly as possible.
So essentially you took your restaurant staff, both front and back of house, and they went from maybe a customer service perspective in terms of hospitality or cooking food or whatever the job, and completely flipped that skill set into providing, like helping people along with their telemedicine appointments, right?
We had sous chefs and servers and bartenders and runners all now responsible for making phone calls to patients and helping them convert their visit to a telehealth visit, which was a lot. Because it was a massive undertaking, not just for us as a company, but more importantly for each individual to master 1 to 3 different medical technology software systems is incredible.
Wow. And what was the staff response? I mean, you kind of walk in, I'm guessing, and kind of make an announcement to your employees. What was the initial reaction?
So that's actually part of the entire thing is all of this has been done remotely. So when we closed the restaurants on Monday, I guess we were worried about the risk of everyone scattering into the wind. And when we decided to pursue this opportunity, we had to immediately start having multiple different video conferences, emails, to even disseminate the information of what we thought we were about to do. So we actually offered it to basically our entire company, and we had over 50% of our full-time employees take this leap of faith with us. So we had about 110 people whose restaurant jobs went away on Monday, working in telemedicine by Friday.
Wow.
So it's this massive pivot.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's an understatement, I would say. It kind of brings me to my next question. Now that government's starting to reopen, that we're starting to see restaurants begin to reopen, what is your thought process with QED resources versus QED hospitality? Are you continuing down the path? Is there a transition back? Have you gotten that far?
We're probably going to do both. We are true hospitalitarians at heart, and we are anxious to get back into our restaurants and bars, but we also want to put safety first. So we don't plan on being one of the first to reopen, especially given the capacity limits currently in place. Opening at 25% capacity doesn't really make a whole lot of financial sense to us right now. And even once we are allowed to operate at a larger capacity, we do want to make sure we're operating safely. So if we continue to do the work in telehealth and use QED resources as another arm of income, we can continue to employ maybe not just our restaurant workers, but other people in hospitality as well. So we're looking at it as an opportunity to keep paychecks in people's banks. And so, I don't think either one of us ever imagined working in telemedicine.
No.
But if it does allow us to, one, keep our team together, and then two, we would love to be able to provide more jobs to hospitality workers whose jobs are not there for them to return to.
Admirable and completely understandable. And, looking at what you two do, you have an added challenge because you work to manage food and beverages within hotels. So it's not just an issue of a restaurant, but also when are people going back to hotels? I would imagine that some of the clientele is based on folks staying at the hotels.
That's true. We've been very fortunate that we've really gained a local following, and it's been part of our strategy since day one to focus on the local community first when it comes to the restaurants in the individual communities. And that is serving us well now because we do feel confident that when we reopen Jack Rose, New Orleanians will be pretty darn excited to come back.
Yeah. And the same is true in Nashville. Our rooftop bar in Nashville, LA, Jackson is supported wildly by locals, which is great. And so we are well aware that tourism is probably not returning to anywhere near the levels it was when we closed down. So focusing on the communities in which our spaces live will be our highest priority.
And so to kind of take it to like a local level, because you are juggling establishments in two different cities, what is your, I mean, I know we don't have a crystal ball, right? But what are your thoughts on, what a dining experience looks like? I mean, maybe not immediately, but maybe like a month out, 2 months out. Do you have any feeling for it yet?
It will most certainly be very different from what we all have fond memories of. I think it will be still an opportunity for people to celebrate with each other and find community and run into old friends and neighbors, but it will be different. Your server will be wearing a mask. There will be gloves everywhere. There'll be hand sanitizer on your table. There will be things that indicate to you that the troubles of the outside world are still there. Something that we've always done so well as restaurateurs across the world is give you an opportunity to escape reality for a little while, and that's going to be a little bit harder.
Well, speaking of, like, as you look to transition, are there things from your pivot to QED resources, are there things from QED resources from that transition that you'll bring back with you? Things that you've learned, things that you'll take back with you to QED Hospitality?
I think one of the things that we absolutely love seeing was the way that the team worked together in a completely different way. It really was a great leveler in that it didn't matter who you were before, what you did, or what your skill level was behind the bar, in the kitchen, or on the floor. It was a completely different set of skills required, and people really stepped up to the plate to help each other in ways that made us so very happy to see. And you had sous chefs helping out bartenders, and you had cooks helping out servers, and it didn't matter if you were a manager before. You may not have had the same skills. It didn't matter if you were the best bartender. And to see everybody lean in together and help each other, we think that when the restaurants reopen again, that camaraderie and that inclination to help your colleague go above and beyond for them and show them the same kind of hospitality that we show to our guests. We think that was always there, but it will be so much stronger.
That's really cool. I know there can be a tendency in some restaurants for there to be this kind of division between, the front of house and the kitchen, the back of house. So it's really cool to hear how everyone kind of came together and built that team. I'm sure that's going to be unbelievably helpful as you transition into the next steps with all of the properties. On our way out, I think you've laid out a lot of things to think about, but anything that you might want to add? I'm thinking specifically maybe advice, words of encouragement to other fellow local independent restaurateurs. I don't know about you. I don't necessarily want to live in a land of Chili's and Applebee's.
We don't either.
One of our mantras has always been to make sure we take care of the team first. And I think even the thought process of, hey, let's start this new company in the beginning of a pandemic, really was all about keeping the team together. Because it is the people that make independent restaurants special. And it's the relationships they have with their diners and with the people sitting at the bar. And so as we figure out how to navigate all of this, I think we look internally first to make sure that we feel the team is being taken care of. And when the team is taken care of, then they can take care of others.
Emery, what about you? Any last thoughts? Or
I live my life and we run our company by a Maya Angelou quote, that people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Not everyone is in a position to offer telemedicine jobs, but everyone is in a position to take steps to make sure that their people feel a certain way and feel taken care of. And that's something that we focus on every day.
It makes sense coming from a hospitality company. Well, I just want to thank you both. Thank you, Emery. Thank you, Brian, for taking the time. I mean, I appreciate your time, and I know that everyone listening is really going to appreciate what you've brought to the table in terms of your experience and in terms of thinking about where the industry is heading. We wish y'all all the best, continued success, both at QED Hospitality and at QED Resources. And I know I will be personally continuing to watch as your story continues. I don't know what else to say. It's been a really cool prize cast today. For all of you watching, you know where to find us, and you can always head over to YouTube, ding that bell, and you'll be able to watch us anytime you want. Thanks again for joining us, and thank you again, Emery and Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.